Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to this evening's Bhagavad Gita reading and discussion session. Let us start with our introduction prayer in Bhagavad Gita as it is, page 1. So we'll go through the Sanskrit puja first, prayer, and then if Shalina Mataji, if you don't mind, please read the English for us after that, right?
Sure, Mata.
Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Junyavadi Paschatati Chatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Krishna, Radhe. Jaya Radha, Radhanath Radhe, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Let's read together. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Satam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vichakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpat Arubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Shalina Mataji, please read for us.
Hare Krishna. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Oh my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like the desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara, Sri Vasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so we're on chapter 2, verse 17 today. And I'm thinking, just as a little bit of a recap from our previous verses, you'll notice that this point about the soul being everlasting and the body being non-permanent is emphasized. It's repeated over and over again. That's because the Lord wants to make us very, very aware of it. We need to understand this difference. It's very important. It's vital that we understand this difference, because in order for us to, if we want to advance spiritually, we've got to understand this. All right. So you'll find there's a lot of repetition here. And the repetition is very deliberate, right? And if you can see on my screen here, there's a very nice picture depicting Arjun, as we discussed previously. He submitted to Krishna. He submitted to Krishna, and their friendship, remember we said, changed from friends or cousins to that of guru and disciple. So you can see how submissive Arjun's mood is here. How humbly he's requesting Krishna to advise him further and to direct his senses. And he over and over again addressed Krishna as Rishikesha, meaning the director or the controller of senses, right? So only after Arjun submitted like this, Krishna started speaking. And we're going to now read further on what Krishna has to say. And in these few verses, we're going to deal predominantly with the eternity of the soul. Okay. So we're going to start off with, I just want to check my chat box here quickly. Okay, no, that's fine. Right. Welcome to those of you who have just joined. Please, you'll all feel free to read when I ask you to read. If you want to read and I haven't asked you, then also please do indicate. Okay. All right, chapter 2, verse 17. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Avinashi tu tad vidiyena sarvam. Avinashi tu tad vidiyena sarvam idam tatam. Vinasham avyayas yasyana na kaschit kartum arhati. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so who's going to read for us first today? Veronica Mataji.
Okay, I'll read. Okay. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Purport. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptoms of the soul presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad confirms this. Balagrastata bhagasya tata kalpishtasya cha bhago jivasa vineyaha sachanatyaha kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. Keshagra sata bhagasya satamsha satristamhaka jiva shukshmaha svarupayam sankhayatito hi chitkanha. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000 of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom, smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principles of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spread throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Ishonyur atma chetashva veditavyo yashmin pranachade sambivasha praneshitam sarvam utam prajanam yashmin vidushte vibhashvati isa atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air: prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. It's situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures and is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body according to Mundaka Upanishad. This atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity. And because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. This corpuscles, which carry the oxygen from the lungs, gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit's soul are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself, Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you. It was quite a long purport and quite filled with a lot of explanation. So maybe we should just take a moment to go through it slowly. Okay. So yeah, this is actually a very interesting point here that Prabhupada makes. The corpuscles would carry oxygen from the lungs, gather energy from the soul. And, some modern scientists, they deny the fact that the soul is existent. So how can the body be alive in the absence of the soul? It can't, right? There must be something energizing this body. Just like, we take a car, for example, a vehicle, a motor vehicle. What does a motor vehicle need to move? It needs fuel, right? It needs some sort of energy. There's got to be some sort of source to push the vehicle forward. So likewise, the body has the soul that gives the body energy or gives the body consciousness. So therefore, it's actually rather foolish for scientists or non-believers to say, yes, there's red blood corpuscles and there's white blood corpuscles, and where are these corpuscles getting energy from? Where are they getting it from? Getting from the lungs, right? But they gather energy from where? From the soul. Now, I just want to go back a slide or two. We spoke last week about the soul providing consciousness to the body. We said the body, in order for the body to be alive, the soul has to be there. And the symptom of the soul is therefore consciousness. So when the body dies, we declare it to be, the soul leaves the body, we declare it to be dead. The body is declared to be dead. Right, we also spoke last week about the size of the soul. So there's it right here as well. You see how everything's been extracted from scripture itself. It's nothing like made up. Right. Yeah, and I also said to you all at the beginning of this class that you'll find there's a lot of emphasis being placed on the eternity of the soul. And I said it's very important. So you'll find that it's going to be repeated over and over again. So you see how it's saying here that the Lord explicitly describes this in Bhagavad Gita. It's an important point for us to understand, right? So the references from what we've discussed last week and we've discussed just now in this purport were also made known to us in this purport. So the soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the head point. That extract is brought forward from the Shvetavatara Upanishad, and it's quoted here, 5.9. So you know exactly that it's not just taken and put in there into the purport. It's coming from the Lord himself, right? So there's a reference there for that. And the fact that the atomic soul is situated in the chambers of the heart, in the heart region of every living entity, that has been extracted from the Mukunda Upanishad. So Prabhupada gives it to us all here nicely, all the references. Okay, we have to have faith in that. So look, soul is situated in the heart. I just found a picture just on. I thought I'll display it for you. Can you see how it energizes the body? The spirit soul gives the body consciousness. There's it situated in the heart. And then going back now, we spoke previously about this whole situation of the war that needed to be fought. And we're going to repeat those reasons, especially for like some of the devotees who have just joined today, right? So Krishna encouraged Arjuna to fight. And one may question this. They may say, but Krishna is God. Right? Krishna is God. He's supposed to be all merciful. He's supposed to be fair, equal to all. How is it that he's encouraging a war? That's really something, right? You could get a non-believer, an atheist person who can come up to you and ask you a question like this. How can your Lord entice his disciple to wage war, cause destruction, kill people? It may sound like ungodly to people. God asking you to do such a thing, it's a crime. You can't go out here and kill people because it's a crime. There's a penalty to pay for that. But here, Krishna is enticing Arjuna to fight. Quite an interesting point, right? Okay, but we discussed all these points previously. We said why? We said because one, Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and he was born in that class of men where he had to protect the citizens. He had to protect dharma or righteousness. And at that point in time, there was unrighteousness. And the kingdom could not be ruled by unrighteous personalities. And those unrighteous personalities had to therefore be destroyed. Krishna didn't want them in that position of power. He wanted it to be ruled by God-conscious men, like Arjuna and his brothers, the Pandavas. That's one, right? Then also, as we discussed this in quite a bit of detail as well, where Prabhupada explained that Kshatriyas are protectors, right? They're protectors. So he had to do his duty. Remember that Arjuna and his brothers, they approached Duryodhana and his brothers prior to the war. And they tried to reason with them. But Duryodhana and party did not want to reason. And because of that, there was no other alternative. The war was last resort. And as last resort, they decided to take up their duty and fight for what was rightfully theirs, being Kshatriyas. So they went ahead and did that. That was one reason, right? Then, Arjuna gave previously all these excuses as to reasons, rather, which he thought they were, for not wanting to fight. And Krishna says to him, very interestingly, coming back now, drawing you back to the eternity of the soul, Krishna says to Arjuna, but Arjuna, why are you worried about killing all these people on the battlefield when they are already dead? Interesting. Krishna says they are already dead. But to our eyes and to the eyes of Arjuna and the others present there, they were very much alive. They were standing in front of them in full consciousness. In other words, soul present in their bodies, right? But Krishna, unlike us, he is Paramatma. He's Sachit Ananda. He knows past, present, and future because he is God. So he already foresaw that all those soldiers were dead, were going to die. So he's saying to Arjuna, whether you kill them or not, you are merely being used as an instrument. They are going to die because it is their time to die. They are destined to die. And also, Arjuna, very importantly, you need to understand, as I said, coming back to the eternity of the soul, he says to Arjuna that the soul will not die. Only their bodies are going to die. So what are you lamenting about? That was like the $1 million question for us as well. Yeah, the body will die, but the soul won't. So why lament? Stand up and fight. Right? So we said here again, another reason was to get rid of unrighteousness and establish principles of religion or dharma. The war was also a religious war. It wasn't just like an ordinary war like we would have now, where people fight over land because they're claiming it to be theirs. Why speak of fighting over land and countries fighting with each other We even get this in smaller communities. We get it in family units. I've used the example before and I'll use it again. We get siblings that start fighting with each other over material matters. You know, if the parent passes away and leaves the house to one child and maybe just something smaller to the other child, then there's a fight. But I should have got a share of that house. I'm also a child. So you see, this desire and this attachment to material matter. So the thing is, that's not what the land was here, or material things were here before we were born. It is here now, and it will be here after we leave. Nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to Krishna, and everybody gets things according to their karma, and based on that, scripture says they get only what is allotted to them. And we also quoted this verse previously from Sri Isha Upanishad. It's mantra number 2. What is that mantra again? I seem to forget. Purnam Ada Purnamidham Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnam Eva Vashishate. That's saying that Krishna is complete and whole. Then the second verse says Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. That verse explains that everybody gets only what is allotted to them. Now that kingdom was allotted to Arjun and his brothers. It was their rightful share, which was they were being deprived of, because they were Kshatris, and that was their duty. Their duty was to rule. And if they didn't get their share of kingdom to rule, then what would they do? They've got to do their duty. We spoke about the Varana Ashram system as well earlier on in earlier verses. And, you know, there's 4 ashrams. There's Varana Ashram system. There's like the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. And the Brahmanas are the directors of society, the educators of society. Then we have the Kshatriyas, who are the protectors of society. We get the Brahman, Kshatri, Vaishyas, who are the merchant class people. They do trade. And we get the Shudras, who serve the other 3 classes. Now you can't have everybody being Brahmins, everybody being Kshatriyas, or everybody being this and that and that. It has to be equally spread out, right? So likewise, here, Arjun and his brothers fell into that class, and they needed to fight. They needed their share of kingdom so that they could do their duty and rule righteously. Now, it was a religious war, right? We will, come back to that point. Not, I said, unlike today where we fight for material things, for sense gratification. This was religious because of all the various reasons that we just discussed now and in prior verses. And because it was a religious war, it was fought with much thought. As you can see from the notes here, it was fought away from the cities, away from women and children and non-participants. They were all kept safe. It was fought very far away from these people. And the war was waged as, or entered into as the last resort, when no other method worked. It occurred in the holy place of Kurukshetra. The opening verse, Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra. Remember the first verse? Chapter 1:1. So it was fought in a holy place. It started at sunrise and ended at sunset. So there was no fighting after sunset. Once the conch shell was blown, the war stopped. So you can see the codes here, the religious codes. Is that okay so far? Can we unmute quickly and just have a quick chat about this? Hare Krishna. Any offerings on this? Hare Krishna, Sharat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very sorry, Mataji. Pranam to late join.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining.
But I'm following Mataji. Previous lecture also following.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Okay, any thoughts on this verse here that we've just discussed? Are we okay to go?
Yeah, we're okay to go.
All right. Okay, so let's go. We're going to do chapter 2, verse 18 now. Who would like to read this verse for us? Sharat Prabhu, you want to read for us? You can read the Sanskrit.
Yes, Guru.
Okay,
18, Mataji, 18 was right.
18, 2:18. Yeah.
Yeah, Mataji, I can start with purport translation or?
You want to read the Sanskrit, Prabhu?
Yeah, okay, Mataji, I can read.
Okay, read.
Antavantam imam deha nityayash. Mataji, please, you can read Mataji. That's difficult for me.
Okay. Are we read together? We read together. Come.
Yeah, yes.
Antavanta ime deha nitya nityas
Nitya
yoktaha
shari. Yeah. Nitya yokshata.
nityas yoktaha sharirinaha
Nitya yoktaha sharirinaha.
anashino parameyasya
Anashino parameyasya.
tasmat. Yes, go. Tasmat yudyasva bharata.
Bharata.
Thank you,
Tasmat
Prabhu.
yuddhashto Bharata. Okay,
Okay.
Mataji. Shall I start with translation?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Translation. This material body of the the material
Sorry,
body of the
indestructible.
indestructible, immeasurable, and internal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Purport. The material body is measurable by Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, carry on, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji, purport. The material body is perceivable by nature. It may pursue immediately or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoint, there is no case of lamentation, because the living entity as he is cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved for any long long of time of length of time of permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to us work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this body, the maintain this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Sorry. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and not sacrifice the case of religious for material bodies consideration.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Right. So as I said previously, you'll find that Krishna is holding on to this point of permanent and non-permanent. Prabhupada is elaborating further and further in the purport because it is very important for us to understand. Right. Yes, our next verse now. We are on 19, huh? 219. Anybody else wants to read this now? Another reader want to attempt? Yeah. Or shall I go ahead? Veronica, are you reading the Sanskrit here?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
I'll try.
Right.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ya inam veti hamtaram, yaschainam manyate hatam. Ubhaitao na vichanito, nayam hanti na hanyate.
Very
Hare
nice.
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica Mataji. Can we get Diane Mataji to read this translation and purport? Would you like to, Diane? You just need to unmute yourself, right? If you're going to read. Neither he who thinks.
Okay. Neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays, nor is slain. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapon, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as will be evident from subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is ma himsyat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone, nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Prabhupada goes on. This is very important. You see, I've even highlighted it here and italicized it in blue, where Prabhupada is telling us that you can't just go around killing people, because that is a sinful activity. What Arjuna is doing is not sinful, because Arjuna is engaged in the principle of religion. He's acting upon order from the Lord. Okay. So this is a religious war. He's not going. So also here it says the Vedic injunction is ma himshayat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. How do we commit violence to people? Yes, you can go up to somebody, rob them, shoot them, hijack, maybe stab, whatever. There's different sorts of killing. But that's not the only form of killing. It's not the only form of violence, rather. Because various violence is very broad. It's a very broad subject matter. We can commit violence verbally even, isn't it? We can commit verbal violence to one another. You know, we may say harsh words. The tongue is said to be like a sword. It can send out cutting words. That's also violence. It's violence on different levels. So as devotees, we are meant, one of the four principles of religion is, one of the four pillars is non-violence, right? So here, violence is also that, right? We need to be respectful to one another. So it also applies to that, right? And also the theory of karma comes in here as well. You know, like we hear a lot about, you know, in today's society, crime levels are so high. We're always hearing and reading on the news about somebody being murdered, etc. But remember that these people don't get away with it. Previously here in this country, we had the death penalty, where if you killed somebody, you would face the death penalty. That has since been taken away. Unfortunately, I see the crime levels have increased rapidly since then. But these people may think, okay, they've escaped it here. Here, they've escaped it. But that karma will follow them. And they come back in their next lives and they're going to face it. Or maybe 2 or 3 lifetimes later on, who knows? Okay. So every action has a reaction. That's what it boils down. Right, let's go on to the next one. Verse number 20. Najayate imriyate va kadachinnayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuyah ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, everlasting, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Paramatma Prabhu, would you like to read this purport for us quickly, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
20. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kutashta. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because he takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. That is, there is no trace of history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc., of the soul. The soul does not at all any time become old as the body does. The so-called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as in the childhood or youth. The changes of the body do not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproduct either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different, individual souls, and owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body.
Thank you, Prabhu. Maybe we just halt here for a little bit.
Thank you, Mataji.
All right. Okay. So there's quite a bit here. I've done like a little comparative slide to just illustrate it a little more explicitly for us, right? Maybe we'll go through that as well. So here, there's a similar verse in the Katha Upanishad, Prabhupada says. Okay, and the meaning and purport of this verse is the same as Bhagavad Gita. Let me just move this down. Okay. Right. But here in this verse, there is one special word, vipaschit, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart, where it is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. We discussed this as well, right? Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there. And we are convinced that it is therefore daytime. Not so. It's a nice analogy, right? The soul is present in the body, we feel it as consciousness. The sun is present in the sky, even though it's covered with the clouds, we know it's daytime, the sun is still there, we feel it. As soon as there is a little light in the sky early in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal. We can understand the presence of the soul. The consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all-knowing, past, present, and future. We know that, right? Isn't Krishna said to Arjuna, what are you lamenting for? Krishna knows that these people are already going to die because he's God, he can see the future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. How many of us remember everything in the past? How many of us remember our past lives or past life? No, we don't, right? When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teachings of the Bhagavad Gita would be useless. Makes sense, right? What Prabhupada is saying to us here. Okay, I just want to go on to this slide here and discuss quickly. It's 10 to already. Just some comparisons drawn from this purport, right? The purport draws reference to the body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations, transforms. We said in one of the verses, the body changes from boyhood to youth to old age. We discussed this in previous class, right? So that's what it means. The body goes through transformations, it transforms. But further to the transformation of the body, Prabhupada says, it takes its birth from the womb of the mother, the body of the mother. It remains for some time, it grows, it produces some effects, and then what happens to this body? It gradually dwindles, and at last it vanishes, it dies. Right? Now, in comparison to that, the soul does not go through any of the changes. The body goes through changes, the 6 transformations, but the soul, on the other hand, does not go through any changes. On the one hand, we're saying here, the purport is saying the body is born. The comparison, the opposite of that is the soul is not born. It takes on a new body, but it's not a new soul. It's the same soul. It transmigrates into another body, be it a human body, an animal body, an aquatic body, a plant body, but it transforms into another body. The body dies, the soul does not die. The soul does not die. He is eternal, everlasting, and primeval. And the reference to this is in our next slide. Actually, you would have noticed on our opening slide, text 12 of this verse. Anu Atma refers to minute soul, which is us, individual souls. And Vibhu Atma refers to the super soul, also known as Paramatma, who is no other than Krishna. All right? So let's look at the next slide. There's it. That was on our cover, remember? That's the reference. Krishna says here, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Does that mean you're going to see this body of Sarvanga Sundri for the next couple of lives? You won't see this physical body of me, or you, or the next person, or anybody else. So what does Krishna mean here? Nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. He's speaking of us being the souls, the Atma. Anu Atma, the individual soul. All right. So I don't think, dear devotees, we're going to have time to do this verse here, 21. I think maybe we'll stop here and have a quick discussion. Can we open up chat? And your thoughts, please. Your realizations, your shares. Shalina Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I think this chapter is very apt for me since I just lost my father 11 months ago. And the one thing that I can share with everybody is that my father said no crying at his funeral, sitting and sobbing. And the officiating priest actually commended our family and said, thank you for not sitting and sobbing. You know, it was such a dignified funeral. And so I realized that, you know, this thing about being a soul, and there's no need to cry. And often when I still meet family, the one thing they tell me was, your dad's funeral was so beautiful. And yeah. Yeah, that's what I have to share. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for that share, Shalina Mataji. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also at the same time, we shouldn't be put into a position where we are now going to hold back and bottle our emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay because you will feel that absence of this personality is very great personality in your life. Attachment is there. We all are attached. We're attached to even our own bodies. And we'll miss the person's association. That's what we miss. And we are human. And we are also devotees and soft-hearted by nature. So that soft-heartedness will give rise to some sort of emotion, right? It's okay to cry,
Yes.
but not to sob and howl and cause a big disturbance, because we should cry with understanding. That's what this
Yes,
Bhagavad Gita
Mata.
is teaching us. Is that right, Shalina Mataji?
That's
You cry,
correct.
you do mourn,
Yes.
and you do mourn, but you're mourning with understanding. And that is what is very important. That yes, now my father, who is the soul, has moved into another body, a better body, a body that is stronger, rejuvenated, you know, and he will continue with his God consciousness or his Krishna consciousness. Right?
Mhm.
Mm.
Thank you.
Diane Mataji, any comments from you so far?
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm absolutely glad to be here. And it's very knowledgeable and I'm enjoying the session. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Do join us for the rest of the classes, and you can pick up the classes that you've missed. It's all recorded. We'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you so much.
Veronica Mataji, did you speak? You have to unmute yourself, Veronica.
Okay. Thanks for the beautiful class. So beautiful, so uplifting. From me today, regarding the soul, okay, my takeaway today was the soul is not destructible. It's neither born nor does it die. It's with us. It never ceases to exist. It's just something that I would, I've always remembered, but it's something that I would never forget.
Okay. Excellent, because that's why Krishna is drumming it into our heads. You know, like when we were in primary school, grades 1 and 2, and we had the flashcards and phonics. And the
Yes,
teacher would sit with these flashcards.
yeah,
A,
there's so much.
A, B, B. Krishna
It's
goes,
so, yeah,
eternal,
all about the
and not
soul.
eternal, you know. So Krishna is trying to tell us, please, these are flashcards, telling you over and over again, get it in. You are the soul. You are not the body. You need to understand this, because your eternal relationship is with me. And you should be coming back to me. You are what? Anu Atma. You're a spark of the super soul. So you originate from me. Come back to me. Your place is with me. This is your eternal home. That's why Krishna is repeating this over and over and over. Right? Most brilliant teacher, original teacher, Krishna. Okay, Sharad Prabhu, you want to say anything quickly before we end?
Hare Krishna, Mata, just one story, Mataji. That's my life story.
Okay.
Although in the preaching line, we're distributing books and preaching to general people. You're not this body, soul never die. Don't worry about anything. There is no death. We speak about a lot of things, soul, but one time, Mataji, one college student, I was preaching to him. Almost 1 hour. He not agree with, he not compromise with anything. Just I gave proper books. Life comes from life. He was starting reading 3 months. Then he understood after reading proper book, and 3 months after he contact me. It's 1 hour I was speaking with about no diet. There is no death. Don't worry. Then just reading proper books so clearly. It's very direct. Is
Thanks.
completely. This
Yes.
is really amazing, mother. It's then I got more faith. Oh, this proper books is very powerful.
Yes.
Very, very.
Yeah.
Even
So
myself. Yeah. Yes, mother.
yeah. So I mean, Prabhupada is the best preacher, right? Who can
Yeah,
put it
yes,
across
Mataji.
better than Prabhupada? Nobody, right? Prabhupada is a soldier in the army of
each and
Lord
each
Chaitanya.
and
He can put it across to
yeah,
us.
each and every one, every word, every line is completely certified and convinced, Mataji.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nice service. Thank you for doing the book distribution.
Thank you.
The only way for people to understand, we're not as competent and as effective as Prabhupada is. But by reading
Yeah.
Prabhupada's books, so many people's mindsets can get transformed. So many people get elevated and advanced.
Even myself, Mataji, I'm also come just by I got Bhagavad Gita through online. Just I was practicing 5 years before. Somehow I can't Krishna message, Guru message. I got devotees link and I joined completely, Mataji. Then just
Thank
reading books, Mataji. That's it.
Yes, yes.
And
Books
I was
are the basis.
I was working in Kuwait, Mataji. There is no association devotees. Very less. Only weekly once Friday. So I was Monday to Saturday. I get association through just phone, Mataji. Just by phone calls to I speak 1 hour,
Yeah.
half an hour to devotees. Just I take association from like that, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you. All glories to your wonderful service, Prabhu. Thank you very much. All
Thank
right.
you, Mataji.
Anybody else? Are we all good? Anybody else wants to say anything? Okay. Risha, Bharti, Madhuri Mataji, anybody else? Paramatma Prabhu, what about you?
Namaji, thank you so much, Maj. We really appreciate your time, your dedication, and you passing us this knowledge. We're very grateful to you. Thank you so much, Manaji.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm not passing it on. I'm only an instrument. It's all Prabhupada's purpose, So we're just trying to serve in some small way. And please forgive me for any mistakes that I make along the way. I'm trying. Okay.
Thank you,
All
Mataji.
right. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. It was
No,
very
it's a-
nice. I'm just getting enlightened every day with the me trying to practice what you say, what you teach in the week on a Sunday night, and I try and go over the purport, and I'm enjoying it. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Madhuri Mataji, for offering a realization. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So maybe we'll end up with Nishingadev's pranams now. Paramatma Prabhu or Shalina Mataji, one of you would like to lead the pranams today? Have a turn. Would be nice. Come. Who's leading? Nishingadev's pranams. Who's doing the pranams?
My voice is a bit croaky, so maybe.
Okay, no problem. Paramatma
Thank
Prabhu,
you.
you doing it today?
You mean to sing, Manaji?
Yes, please, Prabhu.
Yeah, Manaji, my voice is not very good.
Okay, Veronica Mataji, I know you're enthusiastic always to sing.
Okay, I'll sing. Okay, let me just get my cocktails. Shri Shingadev Pranam Ki Jai. Namaste Narsimhaya. Namaste Narsimhaya. Hiranyakashi Purvachaha. Hiranyakashi Purvachaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito nishinga Bhagavato nishingo. Ito nishingo Bhagavato nishingo. Yato yamitato nishinga.
Yato yato yamitato nashingo.
Bahe nishingo itaya nishingo.
Bahe shingo hridaye nashingo.
Nishingamajim sharana sapade.
Narasimham sharanam prapade.
Tava kara kamala pare na kama pushing. Tava kara kamala pare na kama pushing. Dalita hiranya kashipu tanu pinga. Keshavadita naraharirupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tava Kara Kamala
Karavare
Sangam
Dalita
Dalita
hiranyakashipu tanu pringa. Keshavadrita narahari rupa.
Jaya
Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya
Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Nrsingadev, 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 Jaya Nrsingadev.
Jaya Nash.
Talat Maharaj, Talat Maharaj, Talat Maharaj, Jaya Talat Maharaj, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Shingadev Bhagwan ki Jai, Bhakta Prahlad ki Jai.
Om Namo Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivargacharya Stotra His Divine Grace Abhay Charanararinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivargacharya Stotra Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ramacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Mathura Dham Mayapur Jagannath Puri Pandarpur Arvati Kurukshetra Ayodhya Dwarika Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the simul devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simul devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simul devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees. So we shall resume next week. Thanks for your time and attention.
Thank
Until
you
next
for the
week. Hare
beautiful
Krishna.
class.
Hare Krishna.
May
Thank you
Krishna
so
bless
much,
you
Mataji.
always. May you be the
Thank
lotus feet of
you.
Prabhupada.
Thank you. I need the blessings. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.